The Philippine government will continue its Astrazeneca vaccine rollout even as several European countries suspended their use over reported blood clots in some inoculated individuals. Malacanang says the government will further tighten enforcement of minimum public health standards amid the spike of COVID-19 cases in the country. The World Bank approves a $500 million funding to help the Philippine government address the COVID-19 pandemic. The National Bureau of Investigation filed criminal charges against 11 individuals over the death of flight attendant Dacera early this year.
The Department of Health and Food and Drug Administration do not see any reason for the Philippines to stop the rollout of Astrazeneca's COVID-19 vaccine, despite reports of blood clots in people who received the vaccine in some countries in Europe. Denmark announced a 2-week suspension following one fatal case which is related to blood clotting. Iceland and Norway followed suit. Earlier this week, a number of EU nations paused the use of doses from a particular batch of AstraZeneca vaccine after a 49-year-old woman in Austria died of multiple thromboses. These include Austria, Estonia, Lithuania, and Italy. According to the European Medicine Agency, this particular batch was delivered to 17 EU countries and comprises 1 million doses of the vaccine. It also said there is no indication that vaccination has caused these conditions. This incident is now being investigated by EMA's Safety Committee.
Parang sinasabi nila, the benefit would still outweigh the risk. Ibig sabihin yung benepisyo ng pagbabakuna still outweighs that risk na ina-identify sa ngayon na wala pa tayong sapat na ebidensya.
Ang WHO says, no worry. Ang UK, ang Inglaterra, tuloy-tuloy ang pagbabakuna. Huwag naman po tayo na mag-jump agad sa conclusion dahil mahirap po yan. Ang dami nating kailangan bakunahan para mailigtas ang buhay.
So far, the DOH hasn't reported blood clotting in people vaccinated with the first dose of AstraZeneca vaccines in the country. According to the DOH, out of the 978 cases of adverse events following immunization, less than 10% or 86 came from the AstraZeneca jabs with only one serious side effect.
Yung iba ay nahirapan huminga, yung iba ay may sumakit ang dibdib.
The most common adverse effects felt after inoculation, according to the DOH, are muscle pain, body ache, fever, increase in blood pressure, and rashes. The DOH also advised those with pre-existing conditions to consult their doctor first before getting vaccinated.
In the latest IATF Resolution number 102, it was stated that the COVID-19 Task Force has approved the recommendation of the Department of Health to further strengthen the implementation of the minimum public health standards in the country. On the level of individuals, the public is being reminded to wear face masks and face shields properly, practice frequent hand washing, maintain social distancing, and propagate correct information on COVID-19. On the level of establishments, intensifying the risk mitigation strategies is strongly advised. And on the level of local government units, the prevent, detect, and isolate strategy has been highlighted, most especially the contact tracing, monitoring of workplaces and other closed settings, and proper management of returning OFWs as well as travelers. According to Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque, these are all parts of the measures being taken by the government to contain the COVID-19 spikes in the country.
So habang dumadami po ang kaso ng COVID-19 ngayon, mas importante po na mapatupad natin itong minimum health standards.
He added the government has also issued directives on the additional deployment of law enforcers for strict implementation of the new guidelines.
It is a national policy now. It is a directive issued by the DILG, which must be implemented by the PNP nationwide, but particularly in areas where there are noted increase in number of COVID cases.
While responding to the health crisis, the palace assured that the government carefully monitors the economic situation. In fact, in the latest speech of President Rodrigo Duterte, he even said,
I have to reopen the economy. I've given a timetable of just weeks. We cannot forever be in the strict protocols.
Secretary Roque said the statement of the president may be enforced next month, but still depends on the situation. Melalas Moras for The Nation.
President Duterte ordered the arrest of those behind fake COVID-19 tests. In a speech yesterday, the president said that the RT-PCR test is the gold standard of COVID-19 testing in the country. He explained that it is part of the solution to combat COVID-19. That is why it can be considered a big problem when people try to fake it. The president issued a warning to testing centers and individuals behind the scheme that he will have them arrested, as well as those who sell COVID-19 vaccines.
I will have to order the police again. Wala akong ibang mas uutusan. Hindi ko mautusan yung mga doktor. I have to order the police and the military to find out and arrest these people. At saka yan napapabili ng bakuna. Nako. Huwag ka sanang mahuli. Pag nahuli ka, patawag kita sa Malacanang.
Government efforts to address the COVID-19 pandemic got a much-needed boost from the World Bank. This after the U.S.-based multilateral lender approved a $500 million funding for the Philippine government's inoculation program. The World Bank said the newly approved financing will support the country to vaccinate the population based on vulnerability and risk. It said priority groups include frontline health workers, senior citizens, indigent communities, followed by priority groups of teachers, government workers, indigenous peoples, and then the remaining population.
Beginning Monday, March 15, unified curfew hours will be implemented in Metro Manila. MMDA Chairperson Ben-Hur Abalos Jr. said the Metro Manila Council in a meeting last night agreed to implement the unified curfew hours of 10 p.m. to 5 a.m. for 2 weeks.
Malaking tulong po siya actually kasi syempre mayroon mga nagiinom ng mga ganong oras, tapos mayroon mga pagala-gala, tumatambay.
Yun siguro po ang mas maganda kasi dito sa lugar namin, alas 12 may mga gumagala-gala pa eh.
Konting tiis po tayo, 2 linggo lang naman po ito. Ang iniiwasan po rito ay yung mga umiikot sa baba, no? Yung mga nagka-cluster na mga tao sa mga kalye, ganun po. Talaga iniiwasan po ng gusto yan. Magiging mahigpit po tayo dyan.
Essential establishments and workers are exempted from the curfew and they will only need to present their identification cards. Penalties for those caught violating the curfew hours are depending on the ordinances of LGUs. What should be expected from the revival of longer curfew hours as there is a sudden increase of COVID-19 cases? The chairperson of MMC explains.
Nakipag-coordinate po kami sa ating kapulisan to our COP para po hindi lang po yung ating mga barangay tanod ang magmaman, meron tayong pulis na mismong will make it a point na ito pong curfew na ito ay ma-implement dito po sa ating region, sa National Capital Region.
Aside from curfew, Olivares said the LGUs in Metro Manila will intensify testing and contact tracing, particularly in areas placed under granular lockdown.
A granular or localized lockdown is much more better than to re-implement the enhanced community quarantine. This is Senator Christopher Bongo's answer when he was asked on what should be the next quarantine classification of the National Capital Region.
Hindi naman natin pwedeng totally ibalik muli sa ECQ dahil hirap po ang ating ekonomiya.
But the senator added, though ECQ wasn't a choice, the public should not be too complacent because the protocols can only be adjusted if the country has already achieved its target, which is to attain herd immunity. And though the vaccination program is still very much on, the senator believes that the Philippines should have its own vaccine manufacturing capacity, not only for COVID-19, but also for different kinds of viruses and diseases.
Hindi natin alam kung meron pang darating na mga ganitong klaseng mga sakit, dapat handa po tayo at napapanahon na rin po siguro na magkaroon tayo ng sariling manufacturing kung kaya naman po natin.
Meanwhile, the senator also visited the fire victims of Malate, Manila today. There, he gave away 2,000 pesos cash assistance, vitamins, face mask, face shields, food packs, bikes, and computer tablets. Along with him, some government agencies also gave assistance, such as the DSWD, which extended 5,000 pesos for each family. The Department of Agriculture brought vegetables, while the DTI offered capital to those who want to start a business, housing materials from the NHA, and grocery items and hygiene kits from the PCSO and PAGCOR.
Malaking tulong po talaga ang mga dumarating sa amin biyaya o tulong galing sa mga kababayan natin.
In Quezon City, more than 1,700 people have been caught for not complying with the health protocols. This, according to the unified efforts of Task Force Disciplina, policemen, Barangay Public Order and Safety, and other offices of City Hall. Authorities said, under the ordinance, they will no longer issue warnings, but ticket citations instead with corresponding fines.
Ang first offense mo is 300, second offense mo 500, and third offense mo 1,000 with kulong na yun.
In Quezon City still, the local government and bishops in the city have agreed to limit church-related activities in the Lenten season. The traditional penitensya and pabasa are prohibited, but the online pabasa is still allowed. They are also encouraging the public to just do their Visita Iglesia online. In Cavite, the provincial government is alarmed over the surge of COVID cases in the province. According to Governor John Vic Rimulya, 196 new COVID cases have been recorded yesterday. Most of those who got infected are working in Metro Manila. Quarantine fatigue has also been felt by some, according to the governor. In Pampanga, more than 5,000 Astrazeneca vaccines have arrived in the province. It was personally received by Governor Dennis Pineda and some other officials. In Bulacan, the Provincial Health Office belied the social media post of an alleged presence of a new COVID variant in the province. The Provincial Health Office said there is also no community transmission of any COVID variant in Bulacan.
Senator Panfilo Lacson did the math. Since the vaccination started on March 5 and considering the pace of the vaccine, Lacson said it will take us 11 years to achieve herd immunity, and that will be in the year 2033. The senators are saying the efforts must be doubled and the contact tracers must be put in place together with proper surveillance to curb the spike of COVID cases.
Hanggat di natin ito ginagawa, at lalo na kung ganito kabagal ang ating vaccination program, then hindi ako masusurprise. Next year, ito na ang pag-uusapan po natin.
But the health department said they are all working tirelessly to give medical workers the best vaccines.
Minamadali ang pagbabakuna dahil gusto na ho nating maproteksyonan ng ating healthcare workers. It is not expired. Hindi pa ho. Sa end of May pa ho yan. Na-compute na namin yan.
Other than the medical health workers, the military and other men in uniform already received their shots, even those assigned in Visayas and Mindanao. Among the ranks of AFP, 15,000 soldiers have been inoculated. The commanders themselves led the vaccination to prove that the vaccines are safe and there's nothing to fear. But how do they feel after getting vaccinated?
Para bang walang pakiramdam. Mas masakit pa nga yung kagat ng lamok kaysa dito po. Huwag po silang matakot dahil ito po ay para po sa atin.
If the public will only try to listen and understand the value of getting a vaccine, then there will be less cases in the next month.